A frustrating Wednesday night dash and the death of Auto Club Speedway as we know it coming up on FR Racing's Garage Talk. I'm DJ Flook.
Eric Richardson.
Oh, Eric, your race was over before it started.
Yes, it was.
So let's you started at the tail end. You didn't have a looks like you didn't have a very good qualifying run.
Yeah, I
I look in
brushed
my
along
mirror.
lap
I look
one and it
I
negated me.
The light, so green flag comes out. I look in my mirror and I see you just charging past me on the inside.
Yep.
And the black flag came out.
Yeah, don't do that. Wait till you cross the start finish line.
So my question is, and I'm wondering, we might have to do a lab test on this or check the rules. So the question is, I know that red line at the bottom is a hard, like no passing under the red line. You passed me under that red line. And I'm wondering if you got black flagged for passing before the start finish line, or if you got black flagged for passing multiple cars under the red line, which I'm guessing it's probably the start finish line. But
It is probably the start finish. But yeah, it could be a race labs just to see. Because I know there was a lot of running, kind of cutting those old dog legs during the race too.
The end of the first half, I was getting squirrely coming out of 4 into that tri-oval. And there were a couple moments where I'm glad there was nobody on the outside because of me at the time, because I would have slid right into him. I had a not a great first half, but I wasn't sweating it because I stayed on the lead lap. I knew after the caution I was going to catch back up, and if I could hold with the group, and I was. We had 10 to go. And if you watched my stream tonight, you would have seen, or Wednesday night, excuse me. If you would have watched the stream, you would have saw me utter multiple profanities where I all of a sudden iRacing just locked up and just stuttered and it didn't recover. And then the stream shut off and my PC shut off.
Oh, that's fun.
And that happened to me at Darlington as well on the restart. And I can't remember. I have to go back and see if I don't know. Was I streaming at Darlington? Darlington was week 2, wasn't it?
Week 3.
Week 3.
I think I had that one on the.
So you would have been streaming that night. So there's a couple things on like the processor. AMD has a little bit of a bug apparently, and there was a BIOS update and some driver updates for the processor. And after the race, I got pretty frustrated at the situation, and I just went and did a mass update of drivers, and I did a BIOS update, and my PC's up and running again. I didn't kill it in frustration, so hopefully
it's always a good thing.
Hopefully I'm through that issue now, but we shall see. I also tweaked my graphics settings a little bit for iRacing. I've been streaming in 1080p 60 frames per second because my internet can handle it, but I feel like I haven't had the best of luck with streaming since I went to this ultra wide monitor, and I can't understand for the life of me. I have a pretty beefy processor and a pretty beefy graphics card, but maybe something with that higher resolution pushed it over the edge. I just can't see that being the case, but who knows?
Yeah, it'd be a fun thing to troubleshoot and see what's going on.
I think my rage repair, we'll call it my rage repair. We'll see. I'll have to run a test stream here in a couple of days. I debated. I did. I turned it down to 720 and 720p, and I don't know. Maybe I'll try that for a little while.
Yeah, see what happens.
I might want to compare your OBS settings to mine and see what you're doing, and maybe I'll just copy your settings for a while.
I think the settings I have might have been what you had originally.
Yeah, and like when I went to when I built this PC out, and I'm like, hey, I've got this monster, and my internet can handle it, so I switched it to 1080p streaming, and It's like, yeah, some people might not be able to watch that, but it's 2023 now.
I think everything's almost high def at this point.
I mean, 1080p is kind of an outdated standard when you think about it. Like 1080p was like the big deal, 2006, 2005.
I remember when
Yeah.
720 was
Yeah,
the
seven. Well,
top end.
I mean, a lot of the TV channels are still broadcast. Well, I think maybe not, but there was for a long time. A lot of the channels were actually only in 720p. We've had 4K TVs forever now, or it seems like forever, and a lot of the channels they're not in 4K.
No.
They're definitely not in 4K, and it's like, oh, we got 8K, 12K, 60K, 32K. Like, when does it stop? Like the TV is moving faster than the cable and the streaming box. I mean, at least on the 4K, if you have a streaming device, like the Apple Store, for example, if you have an Apple TV 4K, a lot of movies are either in 4K or they've been remastered into 4K. So, but anyway, TV talk, not exactly what we're planning today. But anyway,
well, let's go backwards to Sunday. Final race at Auto Club.
Yeah, Kyle Busch.
Hard to believe. Final race.
Kyle Busch has won at Auto Club Speedway with 3 different teams now.
Yeah, it is impressive.
I mean, for as much as the villain role he loves to embrace, and his the fights over the years he's gotten in, and his comments that have gotten him in trouble over the years, you can't argue that he is I mean, you could argue he's an all-time great in NASCAR.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Not a fan, but I'll give him credit.
Right. Yeah. And that's it. Is that he's such a villain to so many fans that people won't put him up there with, the top, the best of the best. So NASCAR on the 50th anniversary in 98 did like the 50 best drivers in 50 years. They're upping that list to 75. I'm not sure when they're announcing the 75 for 75, but you have to assume Kyle Busch is going to be on that list.
You would think so.
Now, I mean, Jimmy Johnson's for sure going to be on that list. What was wild about the 50 that it's crazy now when you think about it. Jeff Gordon made the top 50 drivers of all time in 1998. He was only in his 4th season as a Cup Series driver at that point.
He debuted in the Atlanta 92 race.
Yeah, okay, so he was in his 5th full season. Yeah, that Atlanta 92 was the final race, which was the final race of Richard Petty's career. So he was in his he was in his 5th full season, and he was already considered a top 50 all time.
Yeah, the Brickyard inaugural win helped him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the run up to the race on Sunday, I was watching, they're talking like history, and they're talking with Richard Petty, Joey Logano, and I forget the other one. They asked Richard Petty, like, who the greatest driver is, something along those lines. And he goes, you can't. Everybody was, because it was a comparison of Earnhardt, Petty, and Johnson as 7-time champions. And he goes, you can't. Everybody was in their own generation. The only thing that was in common is number 7.
Yeah.
I'm that's such a great way to put it.
3 completely different eras.
The racing is different. The cars are different. And I think that was the most eloquent way to put that. You can't compare that.
I'm going to pull up the list of the NASCAR top 50 drivers from 1998.
Yeah, there are some absolute legends on that track.
Okay, so in 1998, as part of the 50th anniversary driver. So there's a lot of names in here you're going to recognize. We're not going through all 50 of them, but like Bobby Allison, that's pretty.
Yep.
Buddy Baker.
I'm sure. With Petty, probably even Lee Petty.
Lee Petty's on this list. I can almost guarantee that. Lee Petty, Richard Petty, David Pearson. That's a no-brainer. Benny Parsons. See, the thing is, like, we're too young to remember Benny Parsons, the driver, but Benny Parsons, the commentator, was so good. I just
BP
enjoyed him.
and Bob Jenkins, they were together for such a long time.
Oh yeah. Mark Martin made the list. Terry Labonte made the list. Bill Elliott made the list. AJ Foyt, Harry Gant. Ernie Irvan made the list.
I was watching a little
Jeff Bodine made the list too. Ricky Rudd's on that list. Rusty Wallace, Darrell Waltrip, Cale Yarborough, Glenn Wood, Ned Jarrett, Dale Jarrett. I couldn't remember if Dale Jarrett had made the list or not. Tim Richmond was another one that was a little surprising. I mean, his career wasn't very. I mean, he passed away pretty young. I mean, same with Davey Allison. I mean, they were great driver. You know, Davey Allison tragically died in that helicopter crash. What was it, outside of Talladega? I think.
Talladega.
That was in like what 92 or so, 93. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when just watched it. Ernie Irvan took over his spot in the Haviland car.
Yeah, it was a helicopter crash. Yeah, man, that is crazy. So Ernie Irvan, that one kind of caught me off guard.
It was kind of cool watching the story about him, how his career just kind of got derailed at Michigan.
He had that, what was it, a neck injury, back injury? What was it? It was some injury.
Basilar skull fracture.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He was probably lucky to actually survive that crash
and get back in a car again.
And let alone get back to racing and winning.
I'm wondering if that is part. I mean, you look at his stats. I mean, they're good. In the Cup Series, he ran 313 races over 12 years. His best finish in the series was 5th. He had 124 top 10. So like a third of his races, he was top 10, 22 poles, 15 wins. I mean, that's. So anyway,
it's fun to see how this list updates when they add in.
So you had
drivers in the past 25 years.
You had 25 drivers, and I'm gonna say like Johnson's a lock. Probably Kyle Busch, more than likely Kyle Busch. I can't imagine his villainy keeps him off that list. Tony Stewart, probably. Do you think Denny Hamlin makes that list?
I could see it.
If he had a championship, I'd say he'd be a lock.
And look at the number of champions that you've had in the last 25 years. You got Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Johnson, of course, winning his 7, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Tony Stewart.
I think Hamlin's a lock.
Matt Kenseth.
614 races, 322 top 10s, 48 wins. I mean,
and since 98, you have Bobby Labonte and Dale Jarrett with championships.
Well, Dale Jarrett was in the
already
50.
On.
Yeah, he was already in the list. Terry was in it. I would say Bobby probably gets put into the list. It's unfortunate that Bobby's career, like he was so strong and then like he just kind of tailed off and like ended up in some part-time rides and was always kind of running towards the back for the last part of his career. So it's like the people that got in the, 2004, 2005 era never saw him at the top of his game.
Mm-hmm.
Denny Hamlin, first rookie to qualify for the Cup, the chase for the Cup. I would say Hamlin's probably going to make the list. You think Harvick makes the list? I would think so.
I think so because of winning a championship. I mean, he's been a consistent winner really for his whole career.
And it lasted a long time too. Okay. So you look at 99 onward, Dale Jarrett won in 99. He was already on the list. Bobby Labonte in 2000. Ooh, Matt Kenseth. I think Kenseth is a a lock.
Where does Junior stand on this list?
I mean, he's
Michael
a
Waltrip.
Junior's a Hall of Famer. I mean, there's people that argue he's not, but I would disagree with that. I think he was a. Yeah, some people have argued that Junior, if his name wasn't Earnhardt, if his name was Dale Smith, like nobody would care about him. But I mean, he never won a championship, but he was up there. Kansas had 697 races over 22 years, 331 top tens, 39 wins. Here's one for you. I don't know if he gets into the top 25, but I think he's definitely in the discussion. Carl Edwards.
Yeah, and 28 career wins. He's ahead of Junior, just right behind Logano and Truex.
Had his tiebreaker loss for the championship. What was that? 2010? 2011. Yeah, that was Tony's third.
Yeah, Stewart beat him at Homestead that race to win it.
Brad Keselowski, 2012. I mean, that's tough. That list is going to anger a lot of people when they put those additional 25 on there.
There's going to be some names that people go, why are they not on there? Or how did they get in?
Yeah, or you look back too, like, okay, so who missed it out of the 50 in the first 50 years? Like, we're looking at the last, 25 and exclusively here, but is there anyone on that list that raced before 98 that was missed that should be on that list? I can't really think of anybody. Chad Little, Hut Strickland. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it could almost default back to Richard Petty. Some of it's hard to compare just because of
It was a different era.
the eras.
Again, it's like the same thing with like Super Bowls and Major League Baseball. It's like, oh, Babe Ruth would have, his fat body would never have made it in today's baseball. But it's like, but yeah, in his era, he crushed it. So why should he be punished for that?
There's
I'm looking
lot
over
of
at
people have done things.
I'm looking over at my wall of diecast right now. I've got a Bobby Labonte Interstate Batteries 18 car on the
Yep, I got
wall.
that one here. I think we have a lot of the same ones actually.
I think so too. Got my Ricky Rudd Tide car. That's what I remember him for.
That's the car I run when I run Xfinity. This is
Got
the Tide car.
got the Tony Stewart Home Depot car from like 2001 ish.
I think an interesting point too, just to show the differences in the eras. You still have Richard Petty as the all-time NASCAR leader with 200 wins. Then second is David Pearson at 105. Jeff Gordon is third at 93. Our current active drivers of Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick are at 61 and 60 respectively.
The other thing that is a big difference in that era versus this era is you look at like the Gordons and especially Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards was like the first one that really put this on the map. But you look at some of these drivers from the 60s, 70s, 80s, they had never stepped foot in a weight room. They had never run. Mm-hmm. I mean, David Pearson would smoke cigarettes as he would drive.
Yeah, you got Carl Edwards at 28.
You got Carl Edwards, who's, in his downtime are, running the bleachers at, running up the bleachers at Talladega because it's, 70 rows or whatever, comes back down, runs it again. I mean, these guys now are in just like crazy good shape. And, you look at even in the like early mid 90s, not so much.
Yeah, but I think even just those win totals show you how much the racing has changed.
I mean, part of it too is, I mean, and we're going to see more of this too, is I think with this car, we're going to continue to see the parity, and we're not going to have people winning like 10 races in a year.
Yeah. And yeah, the cars change things up. On Sunday, also, they were breaking down the different eras of car and the differences and the changes on each one. And it was really cool to watch. Just kind of seeing everything put out there again and just talked about again.
So this is a stat that will never be broken, ever. In 1973, let me, I just lost it a second. Yeah. Was it 1973? Yeah, I think it's 1973. It does. In the preview, I thought I saw that, but Richard Petty won 27 races.
That's impressive.
I mean, they ran more races. I mean, they were shorter, and it was all regional based like back then. But now you have a 36 race season. Nobody's winning 36 races. Or sorry, 27 races. If somebody came even close, I think people would be purposely gunning for them so they wouldn't be able to touch that.
See,
but I mean, especially too with all these,
Kyle Larson won 10. He's the first champion to win 10 in a season since 2007 with Jimmy Johnson. And before that, it was Gordon in 98 and 97. So 10 or more is pretty uncommon. And only one driver has won more than 20 in a year. Richard Petty did it in 71 also with 21.
Kyle Petty surpassed Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty. No, not Kyle Petty. Kyle Busch.
Kyle Petty.
You have met Kyle Petty. I do remember that. Kyle Busch surpassed Richard Petty with having a victory in 19 consecutive NASCAR Cup seasons after his win at Fontana.
Yep.
Another fun fact. All right. 10 most dominant seasons in NASCAR Cup Series history. Yeah, David Pearson. David Pearson won the championship in 1973. Okay, so I guess Petty's wasn't 73. But David Pearson entered only 18 of the 28 races on that schedule that year. He won 11 of them. He earned the pole in 14 out of 18. He had 14 top fives out of 18 entered races. Gordon in 2007, 36 starts. He had 30 top 10s, 21 top 5s, and averaged a finishing place of 7.3. And you know what? He didn't win a championship that year because of that chase that you have expressed your displeasure with. If it wasn't for it says if it wasn't for the playoffs, he would have clinched the championship a week early.
Yep. See, here's what I don't like. You have Stenhouse and Busch now basically just ride along all season, and they're in the playoffs.
I mean, it's the same thing with Austin Cindric last year. I mean, he won Daytona, and you didn't really hear a peep out of him the rest of the year, until he got eliminated.
Yeah, I don't agree that you just have to win the first race of the year and then you're basically set all season. Then you kick out somebody like Martin Truex, who was up there all season. He was second in the points?
Yeah, something like that.
Just straight up points behind Blaney.
Okay, so Richard Petty's 27-win season was in 1967. They ran 48 races that season, but still 27 wins in 48 races is absurd.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
4 of his wins, he won by at least 3 laps. Man, crazy stuff. Anyway, Las Vegas this weekend.
Yeah,
And
I always enjoy the Vegas race.
I do too. I mean, it's always awkward for me because of the death of Dan Weldon on that track.
Yeah,
But I
that
mean,
is the hard thing.
but the Cup Series always seems to run a pretty decent event. I mean, wasn't it the fall race last year where Bubba Wallace took out Kyle Larson?
No, it's the spring race.
Was it this? I thought it was the fall race.
Is going into the playoffs because he got benched, I think, for what, race 1.
Let's see. October 16th, 2022. That was the fall race. Haha,
Okay.
My memory still works. My kids were so mad at that because he was driving the McDonald's car, as I have here. He's driving the McDonald's car, and he wrecked it. And one of my kids went up to the TV and yelled, "He broke the McDonald's car!" priceless moment. And then I have the other kid who told me for Christmas when they asked about cars and stuff, and they said, "I want an Al car." And I'm like, "An Al car? What are you talking about? An Al car? Like the one like on your desk?" I'm like, no.
No.
For those listening and not watching the video here, a Hooters diecast car is not an appropriate gift for a 5-year-old. Or I guess would have been 4 at the time.
First made famous by great Alan Kulwicki.
The late Alan Kulwicki, who was in the top 50 and deservedly so.
And with the Polish victory laps. I would like those.
I showed you my diecast collection. I got the Air Jordan Kurt Busch from last year in there. So
I do like that car. Just
it's a good looking car. It's a good looking car. Got the Daniel Suarez, the Tootsie's Lounge that he ran quite a bit last year. And then I think this is still one of the sharpest looking cars that the William Byron Raptor that he ran last year.
It's just clean.
It is just a good looking car. That yellow looks really good. And I mean, you look at the top of that with that 24. I mean, that 24 looks a yellow 24 like that looks very throwback to the guy who previously
right there.
Yep, exactly. Oh, wait. I can do side by side. Yeah. We've got dual 24s here, but yeah. Who knew that we are closing in our 40s and we're sitting here talking about diecast toy NASCARs?
Hey, it's just like in the movie Tag.
I was telling
up until you stop playing.
That's exactly right. I was telling Taka, I said, man, we would get super pumped when we were kids and like we were going to Target, we were going to Kmart. He's like, "Hey, check this one out." I'm like, "I got it too." Got my
I need to get all mine on display at some point. I got way too many.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the 124s, but I've maxed that out, and I think my wife would kill me if I put up another 124 display. Plus, I'd have to move my Kimi Räikkönen sign, which I mean, this thing's awesome.
It's pretty classic.
Especially when you're sitting there at work on a Zoom call, you have your camera turned on, and that is just square in the background behind me. Anyway, I think we gotta call it for the night. Las Vegas. We'll go to Phoenix the following week. I will be going to Phoenix the following week. So Kansas for us for the night race.
I have to wait till August. I'm looking forward to going to the Michigan race.
You need to get it together and tear it up at Kansas next week.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I think I'm gonna be pulling out a new livery for that race. If I pull this off, it's gonna be a little wicked.
Well, I mean, so far, the only person that ever did something like this was Chad Winstead, who ran the final race with the broom on the hood of his car with the clean sweep, and he pulled it off. I mean, Colton came in as an exhibitionist and gave him a run for his money too. I think he was a little bit nervous because that would have been pretty embarrassing with the clean sweep car finishing second in the final race, but he did it.
We got almost 5-way battle.
We have a 5-way battle for the within 13 points of the championship.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. 2 races, Kansas and Phoenix. Never know what'll happen at Phoenix.
Yep. I mean, it's a fun track. It's very unique in the with the dog leg and with where turn 1 and the start finish is. It's definitely different.
It is a fun track to drive. Different.
It's also very interesting to watch a race there. I've now watched a race. You'll need to come out here for one of the races at some point and see, because we went to the old config in 2016 and saw that cup race on the old config, and then they shut it down a couple years ago and went to the new config, and it's different.
But actually the last NASCAR race I've been to.
Wow, it's been that long. That's the last cup race I went to. I haven't.
I've been to 4 Indy 500 since then, or 3. It's been a lot.
I haven't been to the Indy 500 since we went in 2008. I'm kind of kicking myself that I never went when I lived in Chicago. I watched all of them on TV, and I watched J.R. Hildebrand go into the wall on turn 4 around Charlie Kimball, and
last lap,
last turn, and then all of a sudden Dan Weld just sneaks right through and wins, and that was the defining moment of his life, unfortunately. Which that's the second time we've mentioned this tonight.
Later that season.
But on that note, hope you enjoyed the history lesson. Some modern, some not so modern. We showing our age here, so. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening at FR Racing Online on all social medias and streaming platforms, frracingonline.com. Check out the blog. We got a lot of good stuff up there. We're going to double time and get some more good content up there.
Yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday. Come and check out Kansas. Should be a fun one.
I hope my computer doesn't fall apart.
Exactly.